All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's live demonstration of the new VanillaSoft user interface. My name is Craig Rector. I will be your host today. I'd like to thank you all for joining us, and I hope that you find today's live demonstration beneficial. Keep in mind we do encourage questions throughout the webinar, and when we get to the Q&A section at the end, I'll try to get through all of them. So please send them in via the chat feature on the left of your screen. Also, I'd like to remind everyone that this live demonstration is being recorded, and we will have that recording posted within a couple of days. We'll make sure to send out a notification when it becomes available. All right. Well, let's move on to today's topic. We're very excited to show you the new VanillaSoft interface along with a modern design facelift. We've added several new features and functionality and have improved on the existing features our customers have come to love. Every advancement to the system was designed really for two reasons: to create a more fluid sales environment that enables the highest level of productivity available to inside sales teams today, and also to allow sales reps to converse and engage with prospects in a more meaningful way that helps to facilitate a better relationship building process at the beginning and higher conversions at the end. Now, some of you joining us may already be familiar with VanillaSoft, maybe even tried us out at some point in the past. So you may already be familiar with the queue-based architecture that VanillaSoft is built on and its productivity benefits over the traditional list-based architecture most systems are built on. For those that are completely new to VanillaSoft, we will cover this and a few other benefits in the demonstration while covering the new and improved feature set. So with that, let me introduce our presenter for today. Our demo facilitator today is Daniel Sims, Product Evangelist here at VanillaSoft. Daniel is definitely the most knowledgeable person when it comes to the VanillaSoft platform. Not only has Daniel hosted thousands of live demonstrations of the VanillaSoft platform, but for more than 5 years now, Daniel has been our primary resource for helping customers get set up and to customize the VanillaSoft software. So Daniel, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join us today.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Happy to be here.
All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and get started. Daniel, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you.
All right. Thank you again, Craig. Let me get my screen up here. All right. So we're going to start with a tour of the front-end caller view of the system. Then we'll transition to the administrative side for kind of a back-end overview. So as Craig was kind of mentioning already, VanillaSoft, we're a queue-based CRM system focused on outreach and follow-up. So what that means, like compared to a traditional list-based CRM where you'd have to generate a list review, find and select a lead from that list, then return to or regenerate the list when you're done to move to the next contact, VanillaSoft will automatically queue up and send the next best available lead to you as you're moving through and working these leads. So, compared to the traditional system, which, not only means a slower productivity and inconsistent follow-ups, but it also allows agent bias and cherry picking to take hold, which can, prevent fresh leads from getting the attention they deserve. The core mechanic of the queue lets the next best lead be routed to you automatically. So you work that record with the tools available that we'll be looking at today, and when you're done, you're going to apply a result code. Those result codes will then drive the system forward, feed you the next best available lead, and kind of are the central focus of our routing automation. So like I said, it's the core of the system. These codes are set up by you. We can pull up a full list in here, and they tell us what needs to happen to this contact next. So we had the one contact and a huff on our screen. When we're done with this contact, depending on what we select here, tells VanillaSoft what we're doing. So maybe I'm scheduling a callback. Booking a future appointment for, let's say, Friday at a certain time. That's going to book that appointment in, get it on my calendar, and make sure that follow-up occurs. Maybe I left a message, and maybe I just need to filter that back into the queue at a later time, let it kind of route through organically, and then follow up with it later. On the other hand, maybe I got a negative response. I need to, they said they don't want our product, they're not interested. Maybe I don't kill it though, maybe I take it out for several months and eventually filter it back in, see if the situation's changed. So whatever the practice needs to be, whatever your best practices are for your industry, you build that into the system, and once that result is applied, the next best lead then comes up. So Let's take a look at the contact page in a little bit more detail. So as I mentioned, this is one contact. I've just logged in. Immediately I'm fed Anna Huff, which is my first contact here. So the new VanillaSoft uses a panel-based display. So each one of these are a panel in this system. These panels are set up and customized by you, the admin, but it also allows some flexibility from the caller side, if they have different screen sizes or different preferences, so I can come in and maybe give more real estate to certain panels than others. So we'll go through panel by panel on what everything is, just keeping in mind this is my configuration for my Acme Sales Leads project here. Your configuration can vary greatly. And I'll also mention that I have my permissions more or less wide open here. You have the ability to restrict or allow, the ability to edit fields, see fields, any piece of data that you want to hide or keep static or allow your callers to edit, you have full control over that. So the first thing we'll look at is that inline editing. So I have that enabled in this case. So we have the basic core contact information in this section here. I can come in and modify any piece of this data on the fly. So if I find out that the president title is not correct, it's actually CFO, I can make that change in real time. That change immediately takes effect. So that's now just locked in with this contact. I've got that information there. It's now a metric. The next time this comes up, I'll be able to see that change reflected. So in addition with the inline, you'll see the email address here. I'm going to go ahead and update this as well. I'll just make that my email. And we'll talk a little bit about the emailing functionality. So what we'll look at first is the first flavor of emailing, where it's a one-to-one manual email. So if I just want to drop Anna an email here, I can click this mail icon. What that's going to do is pull up a list of available email templates. So these are all HTML-rich templates that I've built out into my project, organized into different categories, and given my callers, in this case me, access to. So let's say I want to say ready for a trial. This is the email template I want to select. I'll highlight it, move to the next step, and you'll see here, I'll make it a little bit wider. I've got that email template populated and more or less ready to go. It's using contact variables to pull in information relating to the lead. It's pulling in my information, my signature as well. It's also got our nice logo in there, graphics, links, etc. Standard HTML email, but again, more or less ready to go. Now I can add a personalized note in here. It was great speaking with you today. So I can still modify this and customize it if needed, or I can just leave it as is and fire it off. Now the other option as well, you can attach documents, which can either be pre-attached, in this case they're not, or you can attach them on the fly. So I can upload something from my hard drive, or even attach something from the VanillaSoft document library. So you as an admin can load in pieces of data that you're going to need to send out, or maybe they're just a reference for your agents. You can load them in, and because I've made this available to me, the caller, I can now attach this to the email, just like that. And when this email goes out, now it has that PDF attachment as well. So I'll go ahead and send that, and that just takes me back to this contact page. Now, VanillaSoft tracks every outgoing email. Every touch is tracked as well, but the emails are tracked a little bit separately. So we can see this emails tab here. If I click in here, I can see past emails that I might have sent out, as well as that one I just sent, this ready for trial email. Let's say it's a week later. I need to be reminded what I said. If I personalized it, if I sent an attachment, I can pull that email up. I can preview it really quick in this window. I can also do the same thing with attachment things I've sent. I can pull that brochure up if I forget what it is, forget if I sent it. So again, that was the very basic flavor of emailing. A few other options are available. You can have emails automatically go off based on a result code. So let's say as soon as I leave a voicemail, I also want an email to go out saying, hey, tried to reach you, please call me when you can. That can just happen automatically. So it saves me even those 3 clicks of clicking this icon, selecting the template, and hitting send. Just with 1 click, I can give a result, tells me what to do with that lead next in the system, as well as sending it an email. We also have email drip or nurture campaigns available. So if you want to send, periodic emails after a certain result, like let's say after I get a no, a month later I want to send a follow-up, and then 2 months later I want to send another follow-up, and then 3, we can build out long-term campaigns that just operate behind the scenes like that. We can also do things like sending out, a week before a renewal date. I can send out a reminder email. So, you can build in different email drip campaigns in the back end, as well as through a partner of ours, conduct mass emailing. If you just say, you know what, I want to kickstart this campaign, let me send out 5,000 emails to my prospects, you're able to do that. So that's more or less the emailing function. What we'll look at next is the dialing functionality. So you'll see here I've got phone numbers available, and with VanillaSoft you have the option of having auto dial. So right now for mine, I've got mine set to preview or click to call. There's also progressive dialing available, which I'll explain a little bit more in a moment. But the basic premise is we've got the number here. I can then click this dial icon, and what that's going to do is it's going to dial that number with my phone. My soft phone just popped up. It attempted to dial that number. VanillaSoft will work with a number of different soft phones. We integrate with your system. Now that being said, we do have a partnered VoIP provider. We have VoIP lines available directly through us, which you get a few more proprietary features, but we're able to sit and work with your existing system as well. And I mentioned right now I'm on click to call, so I click that number and it dials it. There's also the progressive dialing, which is as you move through this queue, so as I give a result or leave a message, whatever, and I move to the next lead, when that lead is fed to me, it automatically will dial that lead's number. So there's no lag time between calls. You know, it's not really giving me a chance to maybe take out my phone, check my messages, something like that. It's just, putting me on to the next call, moving me forward, and really ultimately just increasing that speed to lead and the amount of volume I'm able to do without compromising the integrity of the call or the quality. So this other thing you'll see here, a voicemail tab, we'll talk about that really quick. Now this is something that is proprietary with our VoIP system. So if you want to use your phone system, that's fine. Like I say, we don't force you to use our system. We'll adhere to yours. If you did want to use our system, if you were looking for a VoIP solution as well, you would have access to this feature. And what this lets you do is on each line, you can record up to, this is the first time I'm running it in this browser, so it's prompting me, but basically you can record up to 9 different voicemail options and leave each one. This will spawn a little menu, and you can customize and set up different voicemail drop options, so you can have first voicemail, second voicemail, appointment follow-up voice. You can have different pre-recorded options and just leave them really quick. And the way that works is as soon as you start to hear the greeting, so I hear, hi, this is Anna with AGSI, I'm not here right now. As soon as I hear that greeting start to play, I select my voicemail, I drop it, that disconnects me from the call. I then result this contact, move to the next record, and I'm on the next call. While I'm doing that, it's listening to that full voicemail greeting, it's waiting for the tone or the beep to play at the end, and then it's going to drop that voicemail message on the target's machine. So not only is it saving me time, if leaving voicemails is in your practice, it's not just saving me a lot of time throughout the week of having to repeat myself, work off the same script over and over, and listen to all those greetings, but it's also letting me leave a really consistent, high-quality voicemail message every time. You make one good recording, you're going to leave that really well, really nice every time. You're not going to trail off. There's not going to be background noise. You've got that solid, consistent recording available. So the very last thing in this panel we'll look at are, this is kind of some system information. So one thing you'll see right away is the contact time. I just want to touch on that really quick, which is that we track the contact's local time based on their area code. So we can see, this is a 214 number, we can see their time is Central Time, and we can see, as of the time it routed, and we're a little bit past it now, but we can see what the local time for this contact would be. And the reason I wanted to mention this is that this does pull forward. You may have seen it before, but when we come in to result this contact, if I give a call back, now I'm in Mountain Time, so if I pull this in and they say, yeah, call me back tomorrow at 10:30, I can book that in. It's going to automatically convert that to my time, put it on my calendar for 9:30, and ensure I'm making that follow-up. So your agents aren't having to try to do on-the-fly time zone calculation, which, if you're like me, is really a pain. So, and then basic other information such as the source, who owns that contact, what team it's in, etc. So we'll start looking at the next panel now. So this panel, the way I've set it up, we already saw the emails and attachments I've put in this panel. I also have my custom fields organized in here. So VanillaSoft built into it has things like the name, the address, email, etc., phone numbers, but anything beyond that, anything that's specific to your industry, specific to your campaign, or something you need to either record during a call, or maybe something that you have available already and need to bring into the system, you've got that. You can build that out in here in these custom fields. So for example, in this case, I've got my employees. I can track how many employees are in this contact. That's something I had available already with this lead. I know what industry they're in. I can view this. I can build this into other locations. Things like IT contact. Again, just like with the like we did with the email and the name, I have this able to be edited. So I can come in if they tell me the IT contact is now John Smith. I can update that data right here on the fly. So this is all information I had already, but even for data that I need to take down or track during a call, my qualifiers, competitive info if they're with a competitor, sales info, when I'm done, if I need to capture information on why they made a sale, what amount, what products, who's the owner of that sale. All this can be built in and organized so that your agents have an easy way of entering that, and you then have an easy way of tracking it. All of this is metrics that you can filter by, query by, report on. It's all something that you can now reference and pull up later on. So one thing that we'll see here, I'll talk about, is you see this website. This is another new feature with our new VanillaSoft system and with the panel system. You can preview contact websites, basically. So if I need to do some research on AGSI business and technology, you'll see, and I actually put this in my my third panel over here under website. I can click this tab. I can access that website in my window here. So I can do some research. I can kind of check what I need to be looking at. Maybe I need to update the address information or the contact details, or I just get more knowledge about what their industry is. We can kind of pull that in here in real time. As well as I can open this up in a brand new window if I want to by clicking this Go button. So the one last thing kind of related to this panel I want to highlight, I mentioned sales info earlier. So in my case, I have a result code called sold. And obviously that's the goal, to get to sold. But I need to have this info captured, right? They cannot tell me it's been sold and I don't know who the sales owner was, or I don't know what the amount that was or what the pay terms were. So, a big problem is the human error element, right? Where oops, I got excited, I just made a sale, maybe I hit sold and I didn't fill something out, and now I have to go back, try to remember. I may even have to contact Anna again to follow up and see, I'm sorry, what did you want again? What were the terms that it can lead to some awkward situations all around. So what I've done in this case is when I go to results and I go to give a sold disposition, you'll see these fields come up right in here. So they're actually prompting me to fill this information out. If I try to just result this without doing anything, you'll see it's going to pop up a warning. It's going to let me know products needs to be filled out, amount. So in this case, I've made these all mandatory. You can just make them a reminder. I can just prompt them up and I can leave them blank if it's, like for example, the terms maybe aren't always there. But if for things that I need to have and that need to be recorded, we can prompt for that data and make sure I fill it all out in here before I result and move on to the next contact. All right, so we'll go back to the main page. We'll talk a little bit about this third panel here where I've got my call script. So not everyone uses a call script, but even if you don't use a traditional script, read this, then that, this can be a very useful tool just for bullet pointing, for reference, or for helping prompt or drive things forward, maybe being a quick reference for things like objection responses, etc. So we'll look at what I've got in here. So once again, just like with the email templates, you'll see these contact variables are taking effect. So we've got hello is first name, last name available. Hi first name, this is user full. So it's taking all this information in and putting it in one easy to read place. So there's no blanks that I as a caller have to fill in. They're already filled in for me. So, right away, that's helping. That's leading to a more organic sounding conversation. There's no pauses while I'm looking at a different thing or trying to find something in another tab. It's just right there in one easy view for me. Now, in this case, we're just taking in basic contact details, but do keep in mind, this can reference anything. So I can pull in, we spoke with your IT contact blank, and it'll fill in John Smith. We've recently done a lot of work in the county of blank, and it'll fill in Washington. So you can reference really any piece of data you have. So in addition to that, normally in a call script, you'll have breaking points where, okay, what did the contact say? You've made your initial pitch, you've made your greeting or your introduction. What happens then? They say no, they say yes. What do you do next? Normally that's, flipping through pages and trying to find the next thing to say. In VanillaSoft, we have these subscript responses that you can build into these nice little blue buttons here, and that will immediately drive you to the next piece of the script. So for example, let's say that I speak with Anna and they say, you know what, we do have people making a lot of calls. We're actually currently using another system. So I would know right away, use this competitor. And you'll see that feeds me directly to the next piece of the script. So I'm not pausing, I'm not, frantically trying to find the next thing to read. I've just logged that and I'm saying, okay, that's fine. So many people don't. I'm glad you do. If I can ask, what are you currently using? So we can keep going through and you'll see I have more options now available down here. So the one last really cool thing that you can do with this call script is do some surveying. So if you remember, I've got qualifiers, I've got competitive info, I've got sales info. I have things I need to be capturing, right? You can build that into your script. So in this case, I'm asking, what system are you currently using? They might say, well, we're currently using competitor number 2. Right away, you see that in there. It's just entered that data. Now, I could have come over here. I can always come over and just select this myself and update it in there. But this way, again, I'm not having to, scroll through tabs, find fields to populate. I'm just reading from a script. I'm just going through this page, selecting one option, and then moving to the next. Same thing here. Maybe they're not interested. I want to capture why. Let's just log this so that then maybe my manager can review it. They have an idea of why this sale didn't go through. Currently with competitor number 2. So I can do a free-form log in there, save that, and again, under my qualifiers, I now have that logged. That's another metric now that I can report on. It's just tied in there. And I've just gone through the script. I've just had an organic sounding conversation with Anna, but I've logged this information already. And you can do a lot more with that as well. You can track based on the name of the response clicked, utilizing yes. Are you doing this? No. It can just populate that really fast. You can get even more speed, even more kind of a fluid nature here. But really, you're just giving them a lot of ways, giving them easy to find methods to get to the next piece of that conversation based on the feedback from the prospect. So one last thing I'll quickly mention in this panel, just because I have it in here already. We'll really quickly look at the location mapping, which is kind of a neat feature. If you ever do any face-to-face appointments, this can kind of let you see where they are, get a kind of paint a picture of where they're at, and pull that in here. You can also do things such as, let's say you have a central reference you need them to reference, like a website they need to look up quotes, or they need to check comp prices, etc. We can build that into a tab as well. In this case, I've got Wikipedia. So, if I'm a new salesperson, maybe I need to really quickly look up sales to find out what it's all about. Maybe I'm starting at the ground floor. I need to know. I didn't know all this. So, you can build these references in here and use them and leverage them in addition to everything. So all on one page, we have all this resource available to us at our fingertips. All right, so the last thing we'll look at is our fourth panel, which I've got for my comments. So this is my comment. So I can leave that comment, and when I apply the disposition, that comment, as well as the disposition and other info, comes down here at the bottom to the call history. So we track, if you see these icons, we track if an email sent, as well as if an attachment is associated with that contact. We track the date and time that call or that result was given. We track the duration, so how much time I spent on the lead. That includes call time, email time, time spent just editing afterwards, doing research before. If a callback or an appointment gets scheduled, that gets tracked as well, so we can see that later on. And then, of course, what results given, who gave that result, who made the call, and then this is where the comments go. So as soon as I apply this and I hit my result code and Anna goes away, I can immediately come down here and reference this later on. So if I say I left a message, I hit that in the quick response, I'm on my next lead already. But if I pull up Anna Huff again, go ahead and search her up. So if I pull up my contact again, in that call history, I've now got that left message. I see that I did that. I see my really helpful comment. I see how long I spent on that record, that I sent an email with an attachment. So the next time this comes up, I know at a glance where this contact's been. I can see the full history of from birth to life of this lead, and I can see exactly where it needs to go next. I know what needs to happen next. All right, so we'll probably call it there. There are some other features you'll see. Credit card payments over here. You can process those. Not pictured. There's a HUD. If you use our VoIP system, you can use a HUD where you can do call transfers internally. You can do call monitoring as a manager. Monitor, whisper, barge in on calls, and kind of just see who's available in the office as well as a caller. There's also an inbound screen pop if you're using our VoIP system, where if you get an incoming call, a little window will pop up here. It'll do a search basically of the database for that caller ID that's calling. You can then, if you find a result, you can select that or preview that contact to make sure it's the right one. You can add a new one on the fly. So there are some additional features available here. But I think what we'll end with is just kind of going through the queue a little bit. So Anna Huff, we just left her a message. I'll just go back from this search, go back into my queue. So we can return to my main contact here, Dave Ridley, who's the next best available. So I might have called Dave. I might have gone through this call script here really quick, having a nice organic conversation with him again. And then, maybe he tells me no at the end of the day. So he says not interested. So that's fine. I log that. I'm on Mr. Joe Kress. And again, it's not dialing because I have mine set to click to call. So it's going to wait to call until I click this icon. If you had it set for progressive, Joe Kress would be dialing already. As soon as he comes up, it's dialing his primary number. So again, I can use this, go through the scripts, take down notes, and maybe I get a no contact after all that. So we're just moving through this queue really quickly, which just resulted in gone through 4 different leads. And, we're not, again, there's no lag time. I'm not cherry picking. I'm not having to generate a list each time. Everything the agent needs is presented to them on one screen. Whether, from research to past information to future data they need to collect, it's all on one screen. It's all working based off the workflow that you've built into these result codes and what you're telling the system to do next. So it's keeping things easy, fast, and organic for the callers while keeping a really consistent sales practice for the administrators and managers. So with that, we're going to go ahead and transition to the back end of the system, kind of look a little bit at how this is all set up, how it's controlled. So I'm going to switch to admin because I'm both an admin and a caller on this account. So right here, we're on the project page. So this is a top-level view, and each of these projects is effectively a self-contained entity. So that whole time we spent in Acme sales leads, and we spent it in one call queue. Right? I have multiple call queues at different levels that we'll talk about a little bit later. I have a lot of things going on in this one project, but I have a completely different campaign in my insurance template. I have a completely different campaign in LG. Every one of these is unique and self-contained. So we'll go ahead and jump into Acme Sales Leads, and we'll just start taking you through kind of the back end of the core setup and what we looked at on the front end. So first of all, the custom fields, we can really quick just see how easy it is to set those up. So I can see I've got my fields in here. I've got them organized into my different tabs. And I can come in, I can edit these. I can change the type of data. I can change the permissions. I can change what input it is, if it's a menu, if it's a formula. This is where I can do things like, for example, I could build out a drop-down menu, assign different scores or values to each option, and then build a formula field to calculate an ongoing lead score. Or if I'm taking down a price, I need to apply a discount or figure out a commission, I can hide that. I can put it behind the scenes only so that me as an admin, I can report on it. I can pull that data up. It's calculating automatically, but it's not relevant to my callers. They don't see it, but it's still something I can utilize. So, whatever we need to do can kind of be customized here. We can really tweak the organization of it as well very easily. It's a very basic thing to do. So, yeah, that's the core of the custom fields. Very simple to set up and kind of have control over. The next thing we'll quickly look at are teams. So teams, that's kind of our term for calling queues. So I mentioned that we were in one project in one queue. We were just in this Daniel queue right there. You'll see I have a number of different call queues. Each one of these has different sets of leads organized within them. And using these queues or these teams, you can build in, a multifaceted sales workflow or several different stages in a sales pipeline. So for example, I might, start off by getting my freshly purchased leads and loading them into the new leads team. From there, depending on the result of the outcome, let's say they go through my survey script that I have there, they qualify the lead, and then they give a result that says qualified. I could have that automatically then move that and push it into the sales team. So now it's moved from one queue, from one pipeline into the other without me as an admin having to do anything, without the callers really having to do anything other than indicate, hey, we qualified it, let's hit this result code. And now, boom, it's moved in there, it's being dealt with by my inside sales team. Maybe from there, when they give this sold, it moves into a customer care team or a QC team. So, you can kind of really get in depth and build out complex workflows that feed into each of these queues. So with that, we'll move to the result codes page because this is really where the magic happens. This is the central nervous system of the workflow automation. And this is where you can set that team, the special team routing. This is where you can configure what's happening next. How many times do we attempt someone before we give up? How long between calls do we need to do? It's all controlled here. So everything we saw on the front and everything we're seeing now, this is all just my demo stuff, right? I mean, no can be called something else. You can add more result codes. You can have less result codes. There's really not a restriction or a limit. So, don't get hung up on what I have labeled here. This is your workflow, your statuses, your outcomes for each call. So kind of going through left to right, the code and the result, obviously we saw on the front end what that is. That's giving me as a caller a reference for what that is. It's also giving the admin an idea of what they're doing, or when they're looking at a report or a dashboard, as we'll do in a moment, they can kind of see and organize, how's their campaign going? How many solds did we get? How many no's did we get? We can also put those into generalized groups where it's more of an overall bucket where, was this contact a positive one? Was it negative? Did we have a contact? And then again, it just lets you get more of an overview of that campaign, just affecting your reporting and giving you more tools at your disposal. But the real two things that affect what goes on are the result action and the user assignment. This is what tells our system what to do next and where it goes. So with the result action, we can define what the follow-up is. If it comes back into the queue, when it comes back to the queue, this is where I can take it out. Let's say I get a no. Right now it's set to close the contact. It'll kill it off entirely, not route again. Maybe I want to take it out of the queue for several months, or I want to do exactly 4 months. I can enter in a custom time here. So I want to take it out for 4 months before it filters it back in at the end of the queue. For a not available hot lead, maybe I want to shoot it to the top of the queue several hours later. Maybe I schedule a callback or book an appointment. So what happens next is dictated by this action. And then the user assignment tells us where that lead goes next. So this is where I can start saying, hey, we have a live transfer. Let it be a user choice. Give them the option of selecting what contact owner, what agent it gets sent to. Maybe when I get a sold result, I need to say, you know what, let's go ahead and move that to the sales team now. Let's make sure it gets to the sales team, or it goes to the customer's team rather. We've sold it. It's now a client. We need to do some internal follow-up with it. So between these two functions, that's how you kind of build out your overall workflow. You can also do additional things such as set a separate status. So we can do an overall status such as qualified, not qualified. Maybe it's a survey lead or a brand new lead. We can define the status, and this status, when we get to call scripts, we'll mention this, but the status and or the team can be used to feed different call scripts. So if I have a new lead, I can have a completely different script for that, and then when it becomes a survey lead or a qualified lead, we can load a completely separate call script for that one, completely different set of options and subscripts. So that can all, again, be driven automatically and be tied in with your sales workflow. So the very last three options here we'll mention quickly are require comments. So we saw on the front end, I left a comment. You're always able to leave a comment unless you decide to prevent your callers from doing that. This would just make it mandatory. So if I know if you get that no interest, I want to know why. I want a reason. I want more than just, they didn't want it. I want you to tell me exactly what they said and why that sale didn't go through. I can force that comment to be left. Similarly, save recording. If you're using our call recording option, which is available, again, it's built in and kind of easier to set up with our VoIP lines. You can also get it set up with your VoIP lines, though, or your phone lines. We'll work with your system on this as well. But, do I want to save a recording for this? Yeah, for a no, I probably do. For a no contact, maybe I don't need to. And then the very last column is just the sort order, which is literally just what order these display in. So I can give my more common or my more desired ones up top, and maybe the less frequently used or less common ones towards the bottom. So that's the basics. I know we spent a little bit of time here, but this, again, it's the core mechanic of the system. A lot, as I mentioned, can be tied to this. We can go to the email page and we can tie an email to go out with this result code. We can have a drip campaign scheduled based off of it. There's a lot of stuff we can do around these result codes. Including, so we'll talk about this really quick, appointment setting. If you do any sort of appointment setting for inside or outside agents, we have a separate module in here. You can configure this separately. You can set durations, fixed or flexible, notifications to agents and contacts. You can separate those out. You can select who is eligible to have appointments, who can set appointments for whom. A lot of different options there. Again, we'll gloss over it really quick just because it's not going to be relevant for everyone. So we'll talk a little bit now about that call script. So here we get the back-end view of my qualifying script, which is what we looked at on the front end. So just like I was saying, we're using these contact variables. Hello is first name, last name available. Hi first name, this is user full name. And we can add more into here using this insert contact variable button. You'll see that any field in the system can be added in. So I talked about how we can reference the IT contact. We can reference their annual revenue with the industry. We can pull all that data in, and it will just automatically be fed in and replaced with that data as the leads come up. So we've got all my subscripts. We can build in those subscript responses as well at the bottom that then tell us, if they say yes, what's the next piece? Let's go to lead tracking. If they say no interest, what's the next thing? Let's go to not interested. So we can kind of build that branching through this system here. And we can also build completely separate call scripts. I just have this other sample script in here right now, but I can add a completely new call script. And as I was mentioning earlier, we can then have that call script load based on the queue they're in or based on the current status of that lead. So if my qualified leads get sample script, my new leads might get the qualifying script. We can kind of build that workflow as part of it so that depending on what level they're at or what stage they're in, our agents always know what to say next. The last thing for this kind of quick setup guide is importing contacts. This is kind of the basic level, the most common, which is a batch import. You take a CSV file, you map it out, you map your fields, your columns to the VanillaSoft fields, and then you start the import. It comes into the system. It's very basic, very easy to do, so I won't spend a ton of time there. What I will spend some time on, we'll take a look at the dashboard next. So we're kind of getting into reporting a little bit here, as you can see. And what we're looking at right now, this is my overall caller dashboard. So if you ever want to see, hey, what are my agents doing? How are they performing? How's this campaign going? The dashboard gives you a quick, up-to-the-minute view of that. And right now I'm looking at it grouped by the result groups. So I can just see, like we saw with those result codes, how many contacts were made, how many of those were positive, what's that percentage, how many of the contacts were negative, how many were no contact. We can kind of get some really quick and basic info from here. We can also see just overall how many dials were made as well as how many dials per agent, how many hours have been spent so far working leads, emails sent out, etc. So we get a really good, solid idea of the overall campaign performance. We can also break that down by specific code. If I say, well, a positive contact is great, was it an appointment or did we actually make a sale? Now I can kind of see that data. I get that code-by-code breakdown, and I can use that as a reference. Now this dashboard is live. It'll auto-refresh every 2 minutes, or anytime I come here, it'll refresh and give me a snapshot of that second, what's gone on and how it's performing. So you can kind of leave this up as a scoreboard or as just a reference for you throughout the day. You can also build custom dashboards. So this is our very default, very basic one. You can build in more advanced things that give you kind of some KPIs you might want. Like, so for example, I want to know how many solds did I get, how many dials did I make, but I want to know how many sales, what percentage of my dials resulted in a sale. So I can kind of see agent performance this way. I can see who are my top sellers, who's maybe lagging behind. I can see, Christy, you've almost got a 7%. That's really good. Daniel, you're kind of slacking. You're not doing a good job, dude. So you can kind of build this out and really get more advanced metrics, and it's a very easy thing to do. I'll go to edit this one really quick. It's really a drag and drop system. You select what project you're viewing data for, what fields you want to pull in here. If I want to also look at the appointments, if that wants to be part of my metric, I can just drag and drop it. I can color code it really easily. If I want it to be a nice teal color in there, I can pull that in. And we can build in formulas as well. If I want to make that a KPI, I can do a basic calculation just like I did with sold divided by dials here. So you can very easily, very quickly build these custom dashboards out, and then again, view them, pop them out, and just leave them up throughout the day, use them as a reference periodically for different time periods, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, kind of to elaborate on that, so that's giving you your performance, right? Your agent performance, your campaign performance. If you want to get the nitty gritty, that's great. We got all these sales. I need to know the data. I need to know the name of the people we got sales. I need to know what products they ordered. I need to know who the salesperson was so I can give them their commission. That's where these custom reports come into play. So you can save, and these are kind of cookie cutter basic reports that we load in, but you can make your own custom reports based on any field, any metric. You'll see here, I get a full list of all the fields that I've got available in the system. So let's say I need to see the name, the company, the email, the revenue, the industry, whatever I want to be looking at and whatever I want to filter by. Let's say I want to include vendor, so I can say I only want to look at people with competitor number 2, because maybe we're considering a special campaign for people who are currently with competitor number 2. We have a feature that they don't have that we want to email them out and highlight. Or maybe I'm looking for people that are interested in lead tracking, but we didn't convert. So I can say, where result code was not a sold, but interested in lead tracking as a yes, let's pull that queue up, let's pull that report up, and kind of work with it from there, see what we have, get some more detailed information. So I won't delve into this too much just because there's a lot of flexibility to get what you need in front of you. I will say, though, that any of these reports can be exported to Excel. You can also run them as lead sheets, so if you just need to print something off and hand it off to an outside rep, you can do so. You can also share these reports with your callers and make them available to them if you want them to be able to run reports. Maybe they need to see how they're performing or how they're stacking up overall compared to other agents, however you want to do that. So we talked about that. Next we'll go to, we'll touch on lead integration. So I mentioned the very basic way of getting data into the CRM is a batch import. Take a CSV file, import it, map it out, etc. A more automatic or a more, fast-paced and real-time way is to use web lead integration, where we can take an incoming web lead from a web form, from a lead vendor like Precise Leads. That data can be pushed into us directly in real time. So they make a post, they hit submit on a get demo form on our website. A lead vendor says, hey, we have a hot new lead, let's send this through. We map the data from what they're sending. We map it to the corresponding VanillaSoft fields. That gets entered into the system in real time, and it's now immediately available. We can do the exact same thing in reverse, where as you're working leads, if you have your own CRM, another CRM, or you have your own database, or you need to send this off to a client, let's say, we can do that as well. We can post to their URL, we can send it as an XML or a form post, and it's triggered in real time based on the result you give. So if you say, hey, when we sell this lead, let's send this into our current client database that we keep on our own website, again, you select what fields are going out, you select where they're going to, and that just happens in real time behind the scenes. So you can use this to integrate with, again, third-party CRMs. You'll see we have a built-in integration with Salesforce as well. We also have built-in integrations with things like Silverpop, DocuSign if you're doing, electronic contracts, etc. So it's all very easy and basic to be built out. There's no strict API adherence that's needed here. There's no, it's not any advanced SOAP or anything like that where you're going to need to hire a programmer to get this done. It's generally a very basic thing to get it connected with a third-party system. So the next thing we'll look at, just because it's a cool feature, is the audio review. So I mentioned in the result codes, we saw you can say, hey, save a recording when I get a yes, save a recording when I get a no. You can then come in here to audio review. You can look it up by who made that call, who got the recording. You can look it up by what result code they gave, and then, of course, the date range. And when you pull that list up, it's just going to find all recordings in that period with that other criteria. You can then just listen to it in real time. You can download it locally. You can do a batch export if I just want to take all these out and listen to them. But I can kind of see, all right, let's see what we've got. Who are these contacts? What are the notes that were left here? Maybe I need to go into the contact itself and get some more details. Maybe I want to, look at the audio review for the contact here. Maybe I want to check the emails and the attachments we associated with it. You can get a lot of details, whether it's for QC purposes, training purposes, or, hopefully not, but legal purposes. You can have that data readily available at the click of a button. So let's see. One last thing we'll talk about really quick, because I mentioned e-signature. We'll talk about their e-contracts. We'll talk about the document library. So we saw this on the front end when I attached a brochure to my email. This can also be used to do things like mail merge documents. So if you have a contract PDF or you have a service agreement in Word, and you need that to be populated with the name, the address, the sales amount, the contract terms, you want all that in there. You want to be able to just email that out or send that out to the contact, have them sign it and send it back in, and you're done. You can do that with mail merge, where we'll automatically fill in that information in the PDF. We'll fill in the blanks in your Word document. We'll get that information inserted in there so that when you send it out, it's already populated with all that data. They're really just, crossing T's, dotting I's, signing it, sending it back to you. Same thing with DocuSign. I mentioned that e-contract. Same process for that. You can load your contract in here, and that's where it'll get sent out to DocuSign. It'll round trip back. If you have multiple signers, it'll track that. That all gets reported in VanillaSoft. You can keep track of that in the system, and then until obviously it's the contract's completed, and again, that will come back to you as well. So with that, there's a ton of features available. There's a lot. I could probably spend another hour and a half at least going through all the different options available. But just like you have a lot of tools in your toolbox, some you always need. You always need that Phillips head. You always need that hammer. But you don't need everything that's there all the time. So with that, I'm going to leave it here. Craig, I'll go ahead and pass it back to you for that Q&A.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. And again, we appreciate you spending the time with us today. A lot of great info, and I know that a lot of this could have been overwhelming. There's a lot of information to see. We're really trying to highlight the kind of just the core of the primary feature set with the new VanillaSoft. If you would like a more in-depth look at something maybe more custom tailored to what your business or industry, and how VanillaSoft can benefit that, contact us. Let me go ahead and put at the end here before we get off after the Q&A, I'll have our contact information up. Feel free to reach out and we can schedule that more customized look at VanillaSoft for your business. We did have a few questions come in as Daniel was speaking, so I'm going to hop right into those. Feel free to go ahead and ask any now, and we'll get to them as we work through this. So the first question I had come in was, our call center does business nationwide. We have restrictions on when we can call leads, and we have to watch time zone differences, et cetera. Can VanillaSoft accommodate those restrictions with that automatic workflow?
Okay. Yeah. So, and that's great because it is important. Obviously, there's different laws, different regulations, and you don't generally want to call someone at 4 in the morning just because it's during business hours for you. So, as I mentioned earlier, the contact's local time is tracked, right? We look at that area code. We say, okay, they're in 972. That's Central Time. We log their local time. So, from an admin perspective, what you're able to do, come in here, go into our calling periods. So you can set up these calling periods where you can do an overall period, like let's say in general, the earliest we want to call someone is 9 in the morning, and the latest is 6 in the evening, let's say. So it's only going to let contacts route through when it's later than 9 a.m., basically between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. in their local time. So this will take place automatically as soon as I save this. We can also set up exceptions. So if there's certain states I know, like if I know that Alaska has a law in effect where you cannot call for sales purposes any earlier than 11 in the morning, I can add in an exception just for Alaskan contacts where that rule can take effect. But you can kind of set this overall as a campaign. You can always tweak it if you need to. But this, if I have it set like this, it's going to ensure that if I start calling at 9 a.m. Eastern, I'm not calling Central, I'm not calling Mountain, I'm not calling Pacific until it gets later in the day. And then when it becomes 6 o'clock Eastern, I'm not calling East Coast, but I am calling Central, I am calling the Mountain, I am calling the Pacific. So it kind of just lets you kind of organically and naturally roll through as the day goes on.
Gotcha. So basically it takes it out of the queue until the acceptable time frame.
Yeah, it'll just prevent it from showing up, prevent it from routing. Once that time frame hits, all bets are off. Everything's back to the way it was. Everything's equal again. But until it hits that time, until it's between this window for the contact, it'll just kind of wait in the wings for it to be allowed for that time to allow it to route through.
Okay. There are. Let me skip around on some of these questions. Are we able to track email open rates?
Yes, you are. So
basically,
okay. So we'll go to the caller side. So there are, this can be built in your queries and your reports, but basically on this email tab, you'll see that right now there's just a sent tracked right here. We track sent, we track open, and we track bounce. So if we get a bounce back, it'll notify that there. If we get an open, it'll track that in there as well. And that's going to be reflected. We do the old thing where you put a little piece of code at the bottom of the email. If that loads, it'll track it as an open. So not only do we track that, not only can you see that or get visibility into that, but let me jump in here. In your email templates, you can actually set contacts for priority routing when they open an email. So let's say as soon as they open, maybe immediately, when they open that email I sent them, maybe it's a nurture, maybe I left them a message. I know they're looking at the email, they're reading it, they're thinking about my business, I'm on their mind. Now it's going to shoot to the top of the queue. One of my agents is going to reach out. They're going to make that follow-up call while our information is still in front of them. So within minutes, we're able to do that follow-up, or within an hour, within several hours. You can customize that as needed, but yeah, you can have that built into the routing system.
Okay. So next question. You mentioned, sorry, there's a typo here. Do we have to use your phone system for auto dialing? So you mentioned being able to integrate with multiple phone carriers. This person wants to know if the auto dialing can work with, if it just works with VanillaSoft, or if it can work with other integrated partners.
Gotcha. Yeah, it can definitely work with other partners. So, Connect Me Voice is our partner. That's the one that is built in. You get those additional features like the voice drop, like a real-time HUD display, the integrated, kind of easy to set up call recording, a few other aspects, inbound call pop, etc. We integrate with a number of other systems, out of the box as well as through a TAPI configuration. So even something as basic as a landline setup. Now, with an analog thing like that, there's a little bit more of a hardware requirement. We have to get it communicating with the computer, but we can integrate with landlines. We can integrate with your existing PBX system, whether it be VoIP or otherwise. If you're using a competitor or some other phone system you have already, you like it, you want to keep it, that's fine. We'll work with you to get that set up. So in short, yes, the dialing will absolutely work with another system.
All right. And I know that we kind of briefly went over the voice drop feature. So this question is around that. Is there a feature to drop a pre-recorded voice message if one encounters a voicemail? We did kind of touch upon that, but yeah, now that, again, as I just mentioned, that's only with our VoIP system, because kind of the trade-off, we're able to integrate with a ton of different phone systems, VoIP and otherwise, but because of that, unless you're using our partner, we don't have a lot of direct, we're not physically on the call with you. So when you're using our partner, you do have this ability, or this feature available. And as I kind of mentioned, I'll go ahead and go into my account a little bit. You can set up to 9 different voicemail recordings on your account. You can label them as well and give them a quick description. And then, let's say this is voicemail 2, and then just voicemail 3. So as soon as we hear the greeting, as soon as we call someone and we start hearing their greeting, we can then leave that voicemail drop. I can say, let me leave voicemail 3 for them. I click that, I'm off the call, I'm able to move to the next lead. Meanwhile, the system stays on the phone, waits for the beep or the tone at the end of their greeting, and then plays that voicemail 3 recording for me. Right. Another question, what CRMs can we export out to and are integrated besides Salesforce?
So Salesforce is the only out-of-the-box integration where there's no additional work needed. It's just there. You just plug in your Salesforce info and you're good to go. But that being said, the reason it's the only one is because there's virtually no limit. Like I was mentioning earlier, our outbound, there's no advanced API in here that you're going to have to do programming to connect. We just do an XML post or a form post even. So even on a system as basic where, hey, I don't think we can do an API connection. The most it can do is they fill out a form on the website and it'll post into that CRM. We can do that too. We can basically mimic that form post. We can mimic someone going in there and filling out those fields, only it happens in real time at the click of a button. So whatever CRM system you're using, as long as they have some way to accept leads in, we have a way to send that out and get that processed and sent off in real time.
All right. Can I customize what I see in those panels?
You absolutely can. So that was, again, This is all just kind of a basic setup on my project here. Yours will look different, but we can come to the panel layout page. We can select, what needs to go in panel 1 or 2. Maybe my sales info panel needs to go into panel 2, and maybe I want it to come right after the call script. So I can move that around and organize it as I need to and save those changes. Maybe I only want 2 panels. I can cut down the numbers. I don't need this 3rd panel here. Maybe we want to customize visibility on certain fields or restrict the searching, or you have a lot of options available as far as display restrictions, etc. What we just kind of saw there was a very basic demo, very basic view of the way I have mine set up currently.
All right. Well, that's just about all the time we have for today. If you do have additional questions, let me go ahead and, Danny, if you want to exit out of your screen, and I'll display our contact information. Feel free to reach out to either of us or sales@vanillasoft.com, or go to our website and request a more in-depth demo there, or reach out to us with additional questions. Daniel, again, thank you for walking us through the new VanillaSoft today. And thank you, everyone who joined us today. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone who joined us, and take care.